Beneath the surface, the underwater world looks nothing like the one anglers imagine. To us, a lake is calm, clear, maybe, reflective, predictable. To a fish, it is a warped universe of shifting light, distorted shapes, sudden flashes, pressure waves, silhouettes, and shadows that can mean one thing above all else: danger. And if you understand what fish actually see, you stop fishing based on what looks good to you and start fishing based on what triggers them. Because fish are not looking at your lure the way you are. They are seeing something entirely different. Vision underwater begins with a simple fact. Water changes light. The moment sunlight hits the surface, the world transforms. Reds disappear first, then oranges, then yellows. The deeper you go, the color spectrum collapses. In deep or stained water, a bright red lure may not look red at all. It may appear brown, grey, or simply black. That's the first major misconception in fishing. Anglers often choose colours based on what catches their eye in the tackle shop. But fish are evaluating your lure through a visual environment where colour is unstable, inconsistent, and often secondary to contrast. A lure that looks dull in your hand might become highly visible underwater because it creates a clean silhouette, and one that looks electric in sunlight might vanish completely. But colour loss is only part of the story. Fish vision is shaped by species, habitat, and survival. A trout in a crystal clear stream does not see the world like a bass in stained water. A pike lying in ambush sees differently from a pelagic predator chasing bait in open water. Some fish see excellent detail, others rely far more on motion detection. Many freshwater predators are tuned to notice movement first, shape second, and fine detail last. That explains something every angler has experienced. A fish ignores a perfectly realistic lure, then violently crushes a crude chunk of metal flashing past its face. Because realism, from a human perspective, is not always what matters. Reaction is. Then there's the issue of distortion. Light bends when it moves between air and water. This creates a strange optical effect known as refraction. For fish looking upward, the outside world doesn't appear as a full panorama. Instead, they see the world above through something called Snell's window, a circular cone of visibility, roughly 97 degrees wide. Everything outside that cone becomes reflective surface glare. Imagine that. A fish holding 10 feet down is not seeing the entire shoreline, your full boat, and every detail of the sky. It sees fragments, compressed images, movement inside a bright portal overhead. Which means your silhouette matters more than you think. That sudden lean over the gunwale, your shadow crossing the bank, a rod lifted against the skyline. To a fish, those can look unnatural or threatening. This is why stealth matters, especially in shallow, clear water. It's not superstition, it's optics. Then comes motion. Many fish are exceptionally good at detecting movement, especially lateral movement, across their field of vision. Even when visibility is poor, movement can betray prey instantly. This makes evolutionary sense. A predator doesn't need to inspect every scale on a bait fish. It just needs to detect weakness, panic, or vulnerability. That subtle twitch, that erratic dart, that pause followed by acceleration. These signals can trigger instinct faster than visual realism ever could, which is why retrieve often outperforms appearance, and why anglers obsessed with exact imitation sometimes miss the bigger picture. But fish don't rely on eyesight alone. Vision works together with another extraordinary sensory system, the lateral line. This is the hidden advantage many anglers underestimate. The lateral line detects vibration and pressure changes in the water. A fish can feel movement before clearly seeing its source. Think of a spinnerbait, thumping through murky water. The fish may sense it before visual confirmation ever happens. This is why lure vibration matters so much in low visibility conditions. Because in muddy water, you are not always trying to be seen first. You are trying to be found, and even in clear water, vibration reinforces what the fish believes it sees. Now, consider low light, dawn, dusk, overcast skies, deep structure. This is where fish vision becomes even more specialized. Many species possess retinas adapted for dim conditions, making them effective hunters in lighting where humans struggle. Contrast becomes critical. Dark lures against a brighter sky often create stronger silhouettes than bright ones, which feels counterintuitive to many anglers. But underwater, visibility is not about brightness alone. It's about separation. Can the fish distinguish your lure from the background? That's the question. Not whether it looks flashy in your tackle tray. Then there's flash itself. Flash can imitate scales, yes, but it can also signal distress. A wounded bait fish doesn't move cleanly. It flickers, it rolls, it reflects light unpredictably. Predators recognize these visual irregularities. That's why spoons, blades, and reflective finishes remain deadly after generations of fishing pressure. They tap into ancient sensory triggers. But visibility can also work against you. Fishing pressure changes fish behavior. In heavily pressured waters, fish learn. Repeated exposure to boats, repetitive lure actions, shadows, and unnatural movement can create avoidance. Not human reasoning. Behavioral conditioning. A fish that has survived multiple close calls may react differently to familiar signals, which explains why subtle presentations sometimes outperform aggressive ones. Same fish, different context, and context changes everything. Water clarity, sun angle, depth, current, bottom composition, cloud cover. Every variable changes what the fish actually perceives. A silver lure over dark weeds is a different visual event than that same lure over pale sand. A fast retrieve in stained water communicates differently than in clear water. This is why there is no universally perfect lure. Only situationally effective communication. Because that's what your lure really is. A message, a signal entering the fish's sensory world. The best anglers aren't merely casting objects, they are engineering perception. They ask different questions, not, what would fool me, but what would this fish notice? Would it see contrast? Would it detect vibration? Would it interpret this movement as prey or threat? That shift in thinking changes everything. Because successful fishing is not about presenting what looks realistic in air. It's about understanding what becomes believable underwater. And perhaps that is the strangest truth of all. The fish you're targeting may never get a perfect look at your lure. It may detect only a pulse, a shadow, a flash, a vibration, a fleeting silhouette crossing its world for less than a second, and in that instant, instinct decides, strike or ignore. Which means the difference between a fishless day and the catch of a lifetime may come down to a simple question. When your lure enters the water, what does the fish actually see?